When my daughter-in-law took over the grocery list, I thought she was helping. When she took over my bank account, I thought I was grieving too hard to care. When I found out she forged a $280,000 mortgage against my paid-off house, I realized this wasn't care. It was theft. It was premeditated. And it was war. I built a case. I gathered evidence. And I watched her mask fall apart in court. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The receipt crinkled in my back pocket. $387.42 for groceries that used to cost half that when Martha was alive. I was fumbling with my keys when I heard Jessica's voice through the kitchen window. Honestly, Mrs. Henderson, I don't know how much longer we can do this. Henry eats us out of house and home. We can barely afford to feed him. I froze, grocery bags cutting deeper into my hands. Through the window, I could see Jessica leaning over the fence, talking to our neighbor with that martyred expression she perfected. Last week alone, he went through 2 gallons of milk and a whole loaf of bread. Never a thank you, never an offer to help with costs. Mrs. Henderson made sympathetic sounds. You're such a saint, Jessica. Not many daughters-in-law would sacrifice so much. I stood there holding $387 worth of groceries I just bought, listening to my son's wife describe me as a burden to the woman who'd watched me carry groceries into this house every week for 2 years. The front door opened. Jessica appeared, her face shifting to bright concern. Oh, Henry, let me help with those heavy bags. I've got them, I said, pulling the bags closer. Her smile tightened. Don't be stubborn. Michael says you've been forgetting things lately. Forgetting things. That was new. I pushed past her into the kitchen and set the bags down. Did you remember the organic yogurt? She asked, digging through bags. And the gluten-free pasta? I know it's expensive, but Michael's stomach has been bothering him. I pulled out the receipt. Every item she requested was there, including the $23 grass-fed beef. $387? Her eyebrows shot up. That's excessive even for you. We need to talk about budgeting. Even for me. As if I had a history of wasteful spending instead of buying everything on her detailed list. She folded the receipt and tucked it into her purse, which sat open on the counter. That's when I saw it, my own Visa card, with Jessica Brennan printed below my name. Jessica, when did you become an authorized user? Remember? You gave me access for emergencies. You said it would be easier than always going to the store yourself. I did remember that conversation. But I'd been forgetting things lately, according to Michael. I should check my account balance, I said, moving toward my laptop. Henry, you know technology confuses you. Why don't you let me handle the financial stuff? I opened my banking website anyway. The login screen appeared. I typed my usual password. Invalid password. I tried again. Same result. The password isn't working. Jessica appeared behind me. I had to change that for security reasons. Identity theft targeting seniors. Don't worry. I can check your balance later. She closed the laptop. Why don't you rest? You've had a long morning. When had I become someone who needed protection from my own bank account? Michael came home, tie loosened, looking defeated. Same as always. They want recent experience. Don't worry, Jessica said. We're managing fine. Your dad helped with groceries again. Helped. As if $387 was a small favor. Thanks, Dad, Michael said. I know money's tight for everyone. Money wasn't tight for me. But apparently it was for them, despite living in my house and eating food I purchased. Maybe I should look at the household budget, I suggested. They exchanged one of those quick glances. Dad, you don't need to worry about that anymore, Michael said. You've done enough. Done enough. Past tense. I think I'll take a walk. Are you sure that's safe? Jessica asked. You seem unsteady lately. And your blood sugar. Maybe take your phone? Michael suggested. In case you get confused about how to get home. Confused about getting home. In my own neighborhood. I walked to the park where Martha and I used to sit. Call my sister Linda. Henry? Is everything all right? Even Linda expected something to be wrong. How are Michael and Jessica? Are they taking good care of you? Taking care of me? Linda, Have you talked to Jessica recently? A pause. She calls sometimes. She's worried about you. Says you've been having memory issues. Getting confused about money. It's hard on them financially. There it was. The story Jessica had been telling while I sat oblivious. Linda, I'm not having memory problems. That's exactly what someone with memory problems would say. Jessica mentioned you've been denying things, getting defensive. I hung up, realizing my entire family now saw me as a declining old man who needed management. Back home, Michael and Jessica were having dinner without me. A small portion waited on a paper plate while they ate from ceramic dishes. We want to talk about something, Michael said as I finished. Some adjustments to your living situation. What kind of adjustments? Extra support, Jessica said. Someone to help with medications. Shopping. I have a nursing background. I've noticed concerning patterns. What patterns? Confusion about money. Forgetting conversations. Getting lost during errands. We can't ignore the warning signs. I went to bed and pulled out my notebook. Months of careful records proving my mind was sharp. But who would believe my notebook against Jessica's nursing background? I found the folder with important documents. The deed showed this house was mine, transferred to me after Martha's death. Not theirs, mine. When had I started thinking of myself as a guest in my own home? Tomorrow I decided I was getting answers. I was waiting outside First National when they opened at 9 a.m. The same bank where Martha and I had gotten our first mortgage, where we'd saved from Michael's college, where I deposited her life insurance check, was shaking hands 2 years ago. The teller was Emily, who'd helped me before. She smiled when she saw me approach. Good morning, Mr. Brennan. How can I help you today? I need to review all my accounts. Everything. And I need printed statements going back 2 years. Her smile faltered. Is there a problem, sir? That's what I'm trying to find out. 20 minutes later, I sat in a private office with statements spread across the desk. Emily had called her supervisor, Mrs. Franklin, who walked me through each account with professional patience. Your checking shows regular deposits from Social Security and pension, Mrs. Franklin explained, but significant withdrawals, more than your deposits most months. My monthly income was $4,200, but withdrawals averaged $5,800 monthly. Where's the extra money coming from? She pointed to another column. Transfers from savings. About $1,600 monthly for 18 months. 18 months. Since shortly after Martha's funeral, when Jessica started helping with finances. Who's making these withdrawals? She highlighted line after line. Most of the authorized user card, Jessica Brennan. Grocery stores, restaurants, department stores, online purchases. Groceries, I understood. But restaurants? I scrolled through charges at places I'd never been. This $340 at Nordstrom. I've never shopped there. The authorized user card, Mrs. Franklin said gently. I thought about my closet, filled with clothes I'd worn since Martha died. Nothing new. Nothing from Nordstrom. What about this $180 at Chez Laurent last Tuesday? Also authorized user. Last Tuesday, Jessica said she was visiting her mother. I'd eaten a sandwich alone while she dined at a French restaurant with my money. I need to remove the authorized user. She pulled out forms. I'll need identification and signature. Takes effect immediately. As I signed, she continued reviewing statements. There's something else. Mortgage payments. What mortgage payments? She showed me withdrawals. $1,847 monthly, going back 2 years. Listed as mortgage payments to First National Home Loans. My blood turned cold. I don't have a mortgage. I paid off this house 15 years ago. Mrs. Franklin's expression grew concerned. She pulled up another screen. Actually, sir, you do. Initiated 2 years ago, March. $280,000 against 247 Maple Street. The room tilted. That's impossible. The application shows your signature, approved based on excellent credit and property value. She printed loan documents. There was my signature on an application I'd never seen. Next to it, Jessica Brennan, co-applicant. This is forgery. Mrs. Franklin leaned forward. This is very serious. We need to involve fraud department. Yes, I want to report fraud. 2 hours of forms, interviews, handwriting samples. They photocopied my license, scheduled a fraud investigator meeting. We're freezing all accounts and cards associated with suspected fraud. The security officer explained, including the authorized user card. I walked out with temporary check cashing privileges and my true financial picture. After 18 months of Jessica's help, my savings dropped from $180,000 to $48,000. The mysterious mortgage put me $280,000 in debt on a house I'd own free and clear. My phone buzzed with texts. Jessica wondering why her card wasn't working. Michael asking about account problems. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove to the courthouse and requested property records for my address. Here's the original deed from 1995. The clerk said, and the modification from 2022. The modification showed my house as collateral for $280,000. My signature again. Except this time I could see the difference. The handwriting was close, but not quite right. The H in Henry had a curve that wasn't natural to my hand. I need to report a forged document. Another complaint, another case number. By 3 p.m., I sat in my car staring at evidence of systematic theft. Bank statements showing $132,000 stolen. Mortgage documents risking my house. Credit charges for meals and shopping I'd never made. Jessica hadn't been taking advantage of generosity. She'd been committing felonies. My phone rang. Michael. Dad, what's going on? Jessica's having car problems. Her car was canceled. Why? Is there a problem? Someone's been stealing from me. Silence, then careful control. Dad, are you feeling okay? You sound confused. I'm at the courthouse filing fraud reports. Fraud reports? What are you talking about? Ask your wife about the mortgage on my house. Ask about the $132,000 she's stolen. Long pause. Dad, I think you need to come home. We should talk calmly. I'll be home soon. And yes, we're going to talk. The drive gave me time to process. Jessica hadn't just been freeloading. She'd been systematically looting my savings while positioning herself to inherit my house. The mortgage was particularly clever. If something happened to me, she'd own my house with insurance money to pay the debt she created. I parked and looked at the house Martha and I had made home. The garden she'd planted, the porch swing, the mailbox with our names, all pledged as collateral for a loan I'd never agreed to take. The door opened before I reached it. Jessica stood there with the expression of someone preparing for a difficult conversation. Henry, thank goodness. Michael told me about confusion with your account. There's no confusion, I said, walking past her. I know exactly what's been happening. Time to lay out the evidence and watch her world collapse. Michael appeared from the kitchen, strain showing on his face. Dad, let's sit down and work through this calmly. I spread the bank statements across the coffee table, where we'd once played board games during his childhood. Evidence of theft covered every surface. Jessica explained these charges. I pointed to the Nordstrom purchase, restaurant meals, department store sprees. She glanced at the statements, color draining. Henry, I can explain everything. You told me to use the card for household expenses. Household expenses? I held up a $240 charge at Victoria's Secret. What household need did this serve? Jessica's mouth opened without sound. Michael stepped forward, studying statements with growing alarm. These amounts, he said slowly. This is thousands of dollars. $132,000, I said. That's what your wife has stolen from my savings in 18 months. Stolen? Jessica found her voice. You're being dramatic. You gave me access to help while you were grieving. You weren't thinking clearly after Martha died. And this, I pulled out mortgage documents. Did I ask you to take a $280,000 loan against my house? Deafening silence. Jessica stared at papers like they might disappear. Michael's face cycled through confusion, understanding, and horror. Jessica, he said quietly, what is this? It's complicated, she stammered. The house needed work, and Henry wasn't capable of making decisions. What work? What $280,000 worth of work was done? She couldn't answer because there wasn't any. The money had disappeared into accounts funding her shopping and meals. Michael sank into his chair, staring at his wife like a stranger. Did you forge Dad's signature? I was protecting him. He was so confused after Martha died. Someone had managed finances. By stealing from him? By managing his affairs when he couldn't. I pulled out my notebook, showing months of detailed records. Does this look like someone who can't manage affairs? Every page showed careful documentation. Bills paid on time, medications tracked, appointments noted. Clear, consistent handwriting, accurate information. Jessica stared at the notebook, her defense crumbling. You don't understand how difficult it's been trying to take care of everything. Take care of what? You've been stealing while telling everyone I'm a burden. Michael stood abruptly. I need air. He walked out, leaving Jessica and me alone with evidence of betrayal. She tried the victim role that worked with Mrs. Henderson and Linda. I never meant for it to go this far. Tears forming. I was trying to help. Things got complicated. I can pay you back. With what money? You don't have a job. Michael's unemployed 8 months. Where would you get $132,000? Tears stopped as quickly as they'd started. Jessica's expression hardened into something calculating, cold, without remorse. You can't prove this was intentional. I'll tell them you were confused, that you asked me to handle things. Who will they believe? A trained medical professional or a confused old man? There it was. The real Jessica, finally showing herself. We'll see, I said, gathering statements. Fraud investigators will be interested in your medical training, especially since you dropped out of nursing school after 2 semesters. Her face went white. She hadn't expected me to know about her educational history. I climbed stairs to my bedroom, leaving Jessica alone with wreckage of her scheme. Through the window, I could see Michael pacing, probably processing that his wife was a thief and his father wasn't the confused man he believed. My phone buzzed with text from Linda. Jessica called. She's worried about your mental state. Are you taking medications properly? Even now, Jessica was controlling the narrative, painting me as incompetent while positioning herself as concerned caregiver. I typed back, Linda, call me tomorrow. I have a lot to tell you about Jessica's concern. Then I turned off the phone and opened my laptop. Time for the first real strike. I logged into my bank account using the temporary access code they'd given me. Jessica's authorized user status was already removed, but I needed to do more. First, I changed my Social Security direct deposit from our joint checking account to a new account Jessica had never touched. Starting next month, she'd have no access to my income. Next, I called the utility companies. Electric, gas, water, trash, all in my name, all paid from accounts Jessica could no longer access. I need to set up payment protection. I told each representative. Only the account holder can authorize changes. By the time I finished, Jessica's access to my financial life was completely severed. No more credit cards, no more bank access, no more using my money while calling me a burden. The house grew quiet. Through my bedroom door, I could hear Jessica moving around downstairs, probably searching for documents, trying to figure out her next move. My phone rang despite being turned off earlier. Michael calling again. Dad. Jessica's really upset. She says you're having some kind of breakdown. I'm having a clarity moment, I said. For the first time in 18 months, I can see what's been happening. She's crying, Dad. She says she was just trying to help. And now you're accusing her of terrible things. Michael, your wife forged my signature on mortgage documents. She stole $132,000 from my savings. These aren't accusations, they're documented facts. Silence stretched between us. Finally, Michael's voice, smaller than before, what happens now? Now she faces consequences. And you decide whether you're going to keep enabling a thief or start acting like my son. I hung up before he could respond. Tomorrow, I would visit the fraud investigator and file a police report. Tonight, I would sleep peacefully for the first time since Martha died, knowing I was finally fighting back. Jessica could cry all she wanted, could call my family with more lies about my mental state, could try every manipulation that had worked before. None of it mattered now. I had evidence, I had legal support, and most importantly, I had cut off her access to my money. The war was just beginning, and I intended to win. I woke at 6 a.m. to the sound of Jessica on the phone downstairs, her voice carrying through the thin walls of the old house. "I'm really worried about him, Dr. Reynolds." "Yes, I know I'm not family, but Michael's at work and Henry's been showing concerning signs." I crept to the top of the stairs, staying in the shadows. Memory issues, confusion about finances, paranoid thoughts about people stealing from him. Yesterday he accused me of forging documents. Her voice carried perfect concern, the tone of a worried caregiver dealing with a declining patient. "Could you fit him in today?" "I think he needs a competency evaluation." My blood turned cold. She was trying to have me declared mentally incompetent. I dressed quickly and drove to Dr. Reynolds' office, arriving before they opened. When the receptionist unlocked the doors, I was first in line. I need to speak with Dr. Reynolds immediately about a fraudulent appointment. 20 minutes later, I sat across from the doctor who'd been treating my diabetes for 5 years. "Mr. Brennan, I received a concerning call about your mental state. Your daughter-in-law seems very worried." "Jessica isn't my daughter-in-law anymore," I said, pulling out my notebook. "And there's nothing wrong with my mental state, but there's plenty wrong with her story." Dr. Reynolds reviewed my medication logs, detailed and accurate for 2 years. "This is excellent record keeping. Very organized." "Doctor, has Jessica ever discussed my medications with you?" "She's called several times, claiming you've been confused about dosages. She mentioned having nursing experience. She dropped out of nursing school after 2 semesters, and she's been tampering with my medications." I pulled out my pill organizer, showing him what I discovered that morning. "These are supposed to be 10 milligrams metformin tablets. Look at them." Dr. Reynolds examined the pills under his desk lamp. "These are 20 milligrams tablets. Double your prescribed dose." "For how long has she been giving me double doses?" He checked my recent lab results. "Your blood sugar has been erratic for months. I attributed it to stress after your wife's death, but medication tampering would explain the inconsistency." The pieces clicked together. The dizziness Jessica attributed to my declining health. The confusion she claimed was dementia. The concerning episodes she described to my family. She'd been poisoning me with my own medication. "Doctor, I need you to document this. And I need a full competency evaluation from an independent physician. Mr. Brennan, medication tampering is a serious crime. You should contact the police." I drove straight to the police station, still carrying the pill organizer as evidence. Detective Lisa Harper listened to my story with the patience of someone who'd handled elder abuse cases before. "Mr. Brennan, this is the 3rd report we received about your situation. Your daughter-in-law filed a report yesterday claiming you were having paranoid delusions about financial theft." "She what?" "According to her statement, you've been accusing family members of stealing, forgetting recent conversations, and becoming agitated when confronted with reality. Jessica had moved faster than I expected, using my own fraud report as evidence of mental decline. Detective, I have bank statements, forged documents, and now evidence of medication tampering. Would a paranoid, delusional man have this level of documentation?" She reviewed my evidence for 30 minutes, her expression growing more serious with each page. "Mr. Brennan, we need to investigate both claims. I'm assigning a social worker to evaluate your living situation. When?" "This afternoon. Can you be home at 2 p.m.? I agreed, then drove to the bank to meet with a fraud investigator. Robert Klein was a retired police detective who specialized in financial crimes against seniors. "Your case is textbook elder abuse," he said, reviewing the mortgage documents. "Systematic theft, forgery, and manipulation. The perpetrator isolated you from family support while stealing your assets. How long does prosecution take? With this level of documentation? 6 months, maybe less." The forged signatures alone are sufficient for multiple felony charges. I returned home to find Jessica in the kitchen, talking on the phone again. She hung up quickly when she saw me. "Henry, where have you been? You missed your medication schedule." "I took my medication. The correct dosage, from a bottle you haven't touched." Her face flickered with something like panic. "You're not supposed to change medications without consulting me. I have medical training. You have 2 semesters of nursing school and a talent for forgery." "Henry, you're being unreasonable. Paranoid thoughts are a symptom of your condition." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Detective Harper stood on my porch with a woman in a business suit. "Mr. Brennan, this is Carol Fisher from Adult Protective Services. We're here for the wellness check." Jessica appeared behind me, instantly shifting into concerned caregiver mode. "Thank goodness you're here. I'm so worried about him." We sat in my living room while Carol Fisher asked questions about my daily routine, medication management, and financial situation. Jessica answered most questions before I could speak. "He's been so confused lately. Forgetting conversations, accusing people of things that never happened. I've been managing his medications because he can't remember the schedule." "Mrs. Brennan," Detective Harper interrupted, "we found evidence that Mr. Brennan's medications were tampered with. Double doses that could cause the confusion you're describing." Jessica's composure cracked slightly. "That's impossible. I followed doctor's orders exactly." Carol Fisher pulled out her own notebook. "Mr. Brennan, can you walk me through a typical day?" I showed her my detailed logs, my organized medication setup, my careful financial records. For 30 minutes, I demonstrated the mental acuity Jessica claimed I'd lost. "Mrs. Brennan," Carol said finally, "based on this evaluation, your concerns about Mr. Brennan's competency appear unfounded. But he's been so paranoid. His paranoia appears justified," Detective Harper added. "We have evidence of systematic financial abuse and medication tampering." Jessica's mask finally slipped completely. "You don't understand what I've sacrificed for this family. What I've had to put up with. What you've had to put up with." I stood up, anger finally breaking through. "Living rent-free in my house? Spending my money? Stealing my life savings. I earned that money taking care of you." There it was, her confession, recorded on Detective Harper's device. Carol Fisher closed her notebook. "Mr. Brennan, you're clearly competent to manage your own affairs. Mrs. Brennan, you need to leave this residence immediately. This is my home, too." "Actually," I said, pulling out the property deed, "it's not. It never was. And now you're trespassing." The look on Jessica's face as she realized she'd lost everything was worth 18 months of manipulation. Jessica packed her bags with the efficiency of someone who'd been preparing for this moment. I watched in the living room as she loaded boxes into her Honda, each trip to the car more frantic than the last. "This isn't over, Henry," she said, pausing at the front door with her final suitcase. "I have friends, family connections, people who know the truth about your condition. The truth is documented," I replied, "by police, doctors, and bank investigators." She slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Through the glass, I watched her drive away from the house she'd tried to steal, the life she'd tried to destroy. My phone started ringing within an hour. "Henry, what have you done?" Linda's voice carried accusation and disbelief. "Jessica's in tears. She says you've thrown her out over some misunderstanding about money." "It's not a misunderstanding. She stole $132,000 and forged mortgage documents." "Henry, honey, that's exactly what someone with dementia would believe. Jessica explained about your paranoid episodes." I closed my eyes, recognizing Jessica's strategy. She was calling every family member, spinning the story before I could defend myself. "Linda, I'm going to email you bank statements and police reports. Look at the evidence before you decide who's telling the truth." "Police reports? Henry, what's happened to you?" After Linda came calls from my nephew Tom, my cousin Marie, even Martha's sister Dorothy. Each conversation followed the same pattern. Jessica had reached them first with her version of events. "She seems like such a devoted caregiver," Dorothy said. And Michael confirmed you've been having memory problems. Michael, I hadn't seen him since yesterday's confrontation. His silence felt like another betrayal. The doorbell rang at 7 p.m. Michael stood on my porch looking haggard, his work clothes wrinkled, his face showing the strain of impossible choices. Dad, we need to talk. I let him in, noting how he looked around the house like he was seeing it differently. Without Jessica's presence, the space felt larger, quieter, mine again. Jessica's staying at her mother's, he said, settling into the chair she'd always claimed. She's devastated. She should be. She's facing felony charges. Michael rubbed his face with both hands. Dad, I don't know what to believe anymore. Yesterday you showed me all those documents, but Jessica's version makes sense too. What's her version? That you've been declining since Mom died, getting confused, paranoid. She was trying to help manage things, but you misunderstood her intentions. I pulled out my phone and played the recording from yesterday. Jessica's voice filled the room. You can't prove this was intentional. I'll tell them you were confused. Who will they believe? A trained medical professional or a confused old man? Michael's face went pale. You recorded that? I recorded everything once I realized what she was doing. I showed him more recordings on my phone. Jessica discussing the mortgage forgery. Her admission about earning my money by taking care of me. Her plans to have me declared incompetent. My God, Michael whispered. I believed her. I actually believed my wife over my own father. She's very convincing. She convinced your aunt, your uncle, half the neighborhood. Michael stood up, pacing to the window where he could see Mrs. Henderson working in her garden. What happens now? Now you decide who you are. The son who stood by while his wife robbed his father, or the man who does what's right. It's not that simple, Dad. I love her. She doesn't love you. She loves what you can provide, a connection to my money, a house to live in rent-free, a husband who won't ask hard questions. The words hit him like physical blows. Michael had been Jessica's perfect accomplice. Well-meaning, trusting, willing to believe that his father's decline was natural rather than manufactured. She called Dr. Reynolds trying to have me declared incompetent. I continued. She's been giving me double doses of medication to make me appear confused. She forged my signature on mortgage documents worth $280,000. But the family calls, everyone saying you needed help, because she called them first. Just like she's doing now, telling them I've had a breakdown and thrown out my devoted caregiver. My phone buzzed with another call. This time it was Tom, my nephew. Uncle Henry, I just got off the phone with Jessica. She's really worried about you. Tom, did she mention the police investigation into her forgery and theft? Silence. What police investigation? Call Detective Lisa Harper at Davenport PD. Ask her about case number 2024 to 1847. Then call me back. I hung up and looked at Michael, who was staring at his phone with an expression of growing horror. She's texting me, he said, asking if I can get access to your accounts, saying we need to protect you from making more confused decisions. Even now, she's trying to use you to steal from me. Michael's phone rang. Jessica's name on the screen. He looked at me, then at the phone, and for the first time in months, he declined the call. What should I do, Dad? Tell the truth. When family members call, tell them what you've seen. When the police interview you, be honest about what Jessica told you to say and do. She'll hate me. She already hates you. You just haven't realized it yet. Michael left without saying goodbye, proud to have the hardest conversation of his marriage. I didn't envy him the choice between his wife and his integrity, but I was proud he was finally making it. Over the next 2 hours, my phone rang constantly. Tom called back after speaking with Detective Harper, his voice shaken. Uncle Henry, I owe you an apology. I had no idea. Marie called to retract her earlier accusations. Dorothy admitted she'd been suspicious of Jessica's story, but didn't want to interfere in family matters. One by one, the narrative Jessica had constructed was crumbling. Family members who believed her lies were confronting the evidence, seeing the manipulation for what it was. The last call came at 10 p.m. Linda, crying. Henry, I'm so sorry. I looked at the bank statements you sent. I can't believe I accused you of being paranoid when that woman was stealing from you. She's very good at what she does. I said she had practice. Practice? This isn't her first time, Linda. Detective Harper is looking into her background. Jessica Brennan has left a trail of elderly victims across 3 states. The house felt different that night. Not empty, but clean, like an infection had been removed and healthy tissue could finally heal. I sat in my chair, not Jessica's chair anymore, mine, and opened my notebook to write the day's entry. Jessica removed from house. Family learning truth. Police investigation proceeding. First day of real recovery begins. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more of Jessica's desperate attempts to salvage her scheme. But tonight, for the first time in 18 months, I was alone in my own home by choice rather than abandonment, and it felt like freedom. The social worker arrived at 8 a.m. sharp. Margaret Kelly, no relation to the bank manager, carried herself with the brisk efficiency of someone who'd seen every form of elder abuse imaginable. Mr. Brennan, I'm here to follow up on the Adult Protective Services report filed against you. Filed by Jessica, I assume. Mrs. Brennan expressed serious concerns about your welfare. Allegations of self-neglect, medication noncompliance, and financial vulnerability. I invited her in, noting how she examined everything with professional eyes. The clean kitchen, organized living spaces, my careful medication set up on the counter. Mrs. Brennan stated you've been living in unsafe conditions, unable to maintain basic hygiene or household management. I gestured around the spotless house. Does this look unsafe to you? Margaret made notes, photographing my organized medication system, the detailed schedules taped to my refrigerator, the tidy rooms that contradicted every claim Jessica had made. She also mentioned you've been refusing medical care and making irrational financial decisions. I handed her a folder I prepared overnight. Here's documentation of every doctor visit for the past 2 years, medication compliance logs, and the bank statements showing systematic theft by Mrs. Brennan. Margaret spent 30 minutes reviewing evidence, her expression growing more concerned with each page. Mr. Brennan, these documents suggest you're highly organized and mentally competent. The financial records indicate significant theft by the person who filed the APS report. That's correct. This is unusual. Typically, when family members file APS reports, they're genuinely concerned about welfare. This appears to be... She paused, choosing words carefully, retaliatory. My phone rang. Jessica's number. I showed the screen to Margaret. She's called 17 times since yesterday. Would you like to hear her latest voicemail? I played Jessica's message on speaker. Emery, you need to stop this insanity. Tell the social worker you're confused and need help managing your affairs. If you don't cooperate, I'll have to take more serious steps. Margaret's eyebrows rose. More serious steps? Yesterday, she called Dr. Reynolds claiming I needed a competency evaluation. She's been systematically trying to have me declared mentally incompetent while stealing from your bank accounts and living rent-free in my house, which she tried to mortgage without my knowledge. Margaret closed her folder. Mr. Brennan, I need to inform you that filing false APS reports is a crime. Based on my evaluation, you're clearly competent and living independently. Mrs. Brennan's allegations appear to be completely fabricated. What happens now? I'm referring this case to the district attorney for prosecution of false reporting. I'm also recommending criminal charges for the underlying financial abuse. The doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Detective Harper standing on my porch with another officer. Detective, I said, opening the door. Perfect timing. This is Margaret Kelly from APS. Ms. Kelly, Detective Harper nodded. We're here to arrest Jessica Brennan. Is she on the premises? She was evicted yesterday. She's staying at her mother's house on Pine Street. The detective's partner consulted his notes. We have warrants for financial elder abuse, forgery, and filing false police reports. Margaret looked surprised. False police reports? Mrs. Brennan filed a report claiming Mr. Brennan was having paranoid delusions about theft. She uses legitimate fraud complaint as evidence of mental incompetence. The scope of Jessica's manipulation was staggering. She weaponized every system designed to protect me: medical care, social services, law enforcement, turning them against me while covering her crimes. Detective, I said. She's been calling family members, telling them I've had a breakdown. She's trying to isolate me from support systems. That's part of the abuse pattern. We see it frequently in these cases. Margaret packed her files. Mr. Brennan, I'm closing your APS case as unfounded. You're clearly capable of independent living. I'll be filing my own report about Mrs. Brennan's fraudulent allegations. After they left, I sat in my kitchen with coffee in silence. The first peaceful morning I'd had in months. No Jessica controlling my schedule, monitoring my medications, or fielding my phone calls. The quiet didn't last long. At 10 a.m., Michael appeared at my door, looking like he hadn't slept. Dad, the police arrested Jessica an hour ago. I know. Detective Harper told me they had warrants. Michael slumped into a chair, his shoulders sagging with defeat. She's calling me from jail, begging me to bail her out. Are you going to? I don't have bail money. We've been living off the money she was taking. The admission hung between us. Michael had been unemployed for 8 months, living entirely off my stolen funds, while Jessica painted me as a family burden. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. I waited. Did you know? Before yesterday, did you suspect what she was doing? I considered the question carefully. I knew something was wrong. I felt confused, manipulated, but I thought it was grief. I thought I was losing my mind. Because of the medication tampering and the constant gaslighting. She made me question every memory, every instinct. She was very good at making me doubt myself. Michael's phone buzzed with another call from Jessica. He declined it without looking. She's texting too, saying you're having a breakdown, that you manipulated the cops and social services. Even from jail, she still tried to control the narrative. Dad, I need to tell you something. Michael's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Last month, she asked me to sign papers giving her power of attorney over your finances. My blood turned cold. Did you? I refused. I thought it was too extreme. But she kept pushing, saying it was necessary to protect you from yourself. She was planning to have me institutionalized. There's more. Michael pulled out his phone, showing me a text thread. She's been in contact with Sunset Manor, that assisted living facility on Oak Street. I read the messages. Jessica inquiring about availability, costs, and admission procedures for a confused elderly relative. The dates went back 3 months. She's been planning this since January, while stealing your money to pay for it. The final piece clicked into place. Jessica hadn't just been committing theft. She'd been orchestrating my complete elimination from my own life. The stolen money would have funded the nursing home that she convinced everyone I needed. Michael, I want you to forward these texts to Detective Harper. Already did. This morning, before they arrested her. For the first time since this nightmare began, Michael had done the right thing without being prompted. What happens to us now, he asked. You find a job and your own place to live. I reclaim my life. And Jessica? Jessica faces the consequences of her choices. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Sunset Manor. Mr. Brennan? This is Administrator Phillips. We had some questions about your admission application. I never submitted an admission application. Pause. But we have paperwork here with your signature, submitted by your daughter-in-law as your healthcare proxy. That signature is forged, and Jessica Brennan has no legal authority over my health care. Another pause. Sir, we should probably discuss this in person. The web of Jessica's deception kept expanding, each revelation worse than the last. How many institutions had she contacted using my forged signature? How many plans had she made for my life without my knowledge? But now she was in jail, and I was free to unravel every lie she told. The real work was just beginning. The Sunset Manor administrator's office smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Director Phillips, a thin woman with sympathetic eyes, spread documents across her desk like evidence at a trial. Mr. Brennan, we have a complete admission application in your name, dated 6 weeks ago. medical records, financial authorizations, even a room preference. I studied the forged signature, now recognizing Jessica's handiwork immediately. She's been planning this for months. The application indicates advanced dementia, inability to live independently, and immediate placement needs. Your daughter-in-law presented herself as your healthcare proxy. Did she tour the facility? Multiple times. She selected a room, discussed payment options, and put down a $5,000 deposit. My money, even planning my imprisonment. Jessica had used my stolen funds. Director Phillips, I need copies of everything. This is evidence in a criminal case. She printed the entire file, her hands shaking slightly. Mr. Brennan, in 30 years of elder care, I've never seen fraud this elaborate. She had medical records, financial statements, even family references. Family references? Your son Michael confirmed your declining condition and need for professional care. I closed my eyes, feeling the betrayal fresh again. Michael had been part of this, whether knowingly or not. When was my son here? 3 weeks ago. He seemed genuinely concerned about your welfare, though somewhat reluctant about the placement. At least Michael had shown some hesitation. That was something. I drove straight to the police station, the Sunset Manor file burning like evidence of attempted murder. Detective Harper was interviewing another victim when I arrived, an elderly woman whose grandson had stolen her retirement savings. Mr. Brennan, Detective Harper said when she finished, I was about to call you. We've arrested Jessica Brennan, but she's claiming you're mentally incompetent and can't file legitimate complaints. I have more evidence. I handed her the Sunset Manor documents. Her expression darkened as she read. She was planning to institutionalize you using forged papers and stolen money. This elevates the charges significantly. How significantly? With the nursing home fraud, we're looking at elder abuse in the first degree, multiple count of forgery, identity theft, and conspiracy. She's facing 15 to 20 years. 20 years. Justice measured in decades rather than months. There's something else, Detective Harper continued. We ran background checks. Jessica Brennan has been married 4 times under 3 different names. Each marriage ended with allegations of financial abuse against elderly relatives. My stomach dropped. I wasn't her first victim. Her second husband's father lost his farm to a forged reverse mortgage. Her third husband's mother died in a nursing home while Jessica liquidated her assets. You're number 4, but you're the first one who fought back. I thought about the other families, the other elderly victims who trusted their children's spouses and lost everything. How many lives had Jessica destroyed before she met me? Detective, what can I do to help? Testify. Your documentation is exceptional, but we need your voice in court. That afternoon, I called a family meeting. Not Jessica's manipulated version where she controlled the narrative, but real gathering where truth could finally emerge. Linda drove down from Portland. Tom came with his wife Rebecca. Even Dorothy made the trip. Martha's sister, who'd been suspicious of Jessica from the beginning. They gathered in my living room, the same space where Jessica had performed her concerned caregiver act for 2 years. I owe you all an apology. I began. I let Jessica isolate me from family, make me doubt my own perceptions, convince me I was becoming a burden. Henry, Linda interrupted. She fooled all of us. Her stories about your condition were so convincing because she was poisoning me with my own medication, double doses to make me confused, then using that confusion as proof of dementia. Dorothy shook her head. I never liked her, but I thought it was just personality conflict. I should have pushed harder when things seemed off. Tom pulled out his phone. Henry, I recorded one of her calls to me. The one where she asked if I thought you should be somewhere safe instead of living alone. We listened to Jessica's voice, smooth and concerned, painting a picture of a declining old man whose family needed to make hard decisions for his own good. She called me too, Rebecca said, asked detailed questions about your financial situation, claiming she needed a budget for your care. Linda looked stricken. She got me to co-sign a document authorizing medical information release. Said it was so she could coordinate with your doctors. Another piece of the puzzle. I said, She needed family signatures to make the nursing home placement look legitimate. The scope of Jessica's planning was breathtaking. She manipulated each family member into providing pieces of authorization, building a legal framework for my incarceration while convincing everyone they were helping. What happens now? Tom asked. Now you all testify about how she manipulated you. Help the prosecutor understand this wasn't simple theft. It was systematic destruction of an elderly person's autonomy. My phone rang. Michael's name on the screen. Dad, Jessica's lawyer wants a plea bargain. She'll plead guilty to misdemeanor theft in exchange for time served and restitution. Absolutely not. Dad, think about it. You get your money back. She'd leave town, and we could put this behind us. Michael, she planned to lock me in a nursing home while stealing my house. She poisoned me with medication and convinced my family I was insane. This isn't about money anymore. Silence. Then Michael's voice, smaller than before. The prosecutor says if she goes to trial, they'll call me as a witness. I'll have to testify about everything I helped her do. Good. It's time you face consequences, too. Dad, please. I know I made mistakes, but I thought I was helping. You thought signing nursing home papers was helping? You thought confirming my mental decline to strangers was helping. Michael's breathing was audible through the phone. I was scared. She said you were getting dangerous, that you might hurt yourself if we didn't intervene. And you believed her instead of talking to me directly. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't undo 18 months of abuse, Michael. Sorry doesn't give me back the money she stole or repair the reputation she destroyed. I hung up and looked at my family gathered around me. These people who'd been fooled by Jessica's manipulation, but were now ready to stand with me against it. The trial starts in 6 weeks. I told them, I need you all there to show the jury what Jessica destroyed and what we're rebuilding. Linda squeezed my hand. We'll be there. Henry, all of us. For the first time since Martha died, I felt like I had a family again. Not the dysfunctional unit Jessica had created through lies and manipulation, but people who cared about truth and justice. Jessica had tried to isolate me from everyone who mattered. Instead, she'd given us all a reason to stand together. The irony would have been funny if the stakes weren't so high. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when I arrived for Jessica's sentencing hearing. News of the nursing home conspiracy had attracted local media attention. Elderly abuse cases always generated public outrage. Detective Harper met me at the security checkpoint. Mr. Brennan, are you ready for this? I've been ready for months. Inside the courtroom, I spotted familiar faces. Linda and Tom sat in the front row behind the prosecutor's table. Dorothy had driven down from Seattle specifically for this moment. Even Mrs. Henderson, my neighbor who'd been fooled by Jessica's lies, had come to show support. Jessica sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, her carefully maintained appearance destroyed by 6 weeks in county jail. She looked smaller than I remembered, older, the predatory confidence replaced by desperate fear. Michael wasn't there. He'd pled guilty to conspiracy charges the week before, receiving 3 years probation in exchange for his testimony against Jessica. He'd moved to Portland afterward, claiming he needed distance from the memories. Judge Helen Crawford called the court to order. The defendant has pled guilty to elder abuse in the first degree, forgery, identity theft, and filing false police reports. Before I pronounce sentence, I'll hear victim impact statements. I stood at the podium, looking directly at Jessica for the first time since her arrest. Your Honor, Jessica Brennan didn't just steal my money. She stole 18 months of my life, my relationships with family members, and nearly my freedom itself. Jessica's lawyer had prepared her well. She kept her eyes down, occasionally dabbing at tears with a tissue, the same performance that had fooled so many people. She poisoned me with my own medication to make me appear confused. She forged my signature on documents worth $280,000. She convinced my family I was losing my mind while planning to lock me in a nursing home against my will. I pulled out my notebook, the same one Jessica had dismissed as evidence of confusion. This notebook contains records of every day since my wife died. Every medication, every appointment, every bill paid. It proves I was never the incompetent man Jessica described to social services, police, and healthcare providers. Judge Crawford examined the notebook, flipping through pages of careful documentation. Mr. Brennan, in your opinion, what would have happened if you hadn't discovered Mrs. Brennan's scheme? I would have been declared incompetent, institutionalized, and stripped of all assets. She would have inherited my house and life savings while I died alone in a facility I never chose. Jessica's head snapped up, tears forgotten. For a moment, her mask slipped completely, showing the calculating predator beneath. "That's not true," she said, ignoring her lawyer's restraining hand. I was trying to protect him. He was confused, dangerous to himself. "Mrs. Brennan," Judge Crawford said sharply, "you pled guilty. This is not the time for explanations." But Jessica couldn't stop herself. 18 months of successful manipulation had convinced her she could talk her way out of anything. "Your Honor, he's an old man living alone in a big house. Someone had to manage his affairs. I did what any caring family member would do. By stealing $132,000 and forging mortgage documents, by preventing him from making mistakes that would have cost him everything." The judge's expression grew colder. "Mrs. Brennan, you were stealing from Mr. Brennan while claiming to protect him. You were planning to institutionalize him using forged documents. In what universe is this caring behavior?" Jessica's lawyer managed to get her quiet, but the damage was done. Her outburst had destroyed any sympathy the court might have felt. Linda stood to give her statement next. "Your Honor," Jessica Brennan called me repeatedly, convincing me my brother was losing his mind. She made me question Henry's competence, doubt his word, and treat him like a child who couldn't manage his own life. Tom followed with his testimony about Jessica's manipulation, how she collected family signatures for documents none of them understood. Dorothy's statement was brief but devastating. "I watched this woman systematically destroy my sister's widower while pretending to care for him. She's not a caregiver. She's a predator." The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Susan Graham, presented the final evidence. Bank records showing the scope of theft. Medical records proving medication tampering. Forged documents from multiple institutions. "Your Honor, this was an opportunistic crime. This was systematic elder abuse designed to strip the victim of money, autonomy, and dignity. Mrs. Brennan planned to erase Mr. Brennan's identity while stealing his life's work." Jessica's lawyer made a final plea for leniency, citing her difficult childhood and financial pressures. But Judge Crawford had heard enough. "Mrs. Brennan, you targeted a grieving widower in his most vulnerable moment. You stole his money, poisoned his medication, and manipulated his family against him. You planned to institutionalize him using fraudulent documents while liquidating his assets for your benefit." Jessica started crying again, but this time the tears looked real, tears of someone finally facing consequences. "I sentence you to 15 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 7 years. You're ordered to pay $132,000 in restitution, plus $50,000 in punitive damages." The gavel fell with finality. Jessica's sobs echoed through the courtroom as bailiffs led her away. She looked back once, her eyes meeting mine with an expression of pure hatred. I felt nothing but relief. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked about my plans. "Will you write a book? Start a foundation for elder abuse victims?" "I'm going to live quietly and enjoy the time I have left," I said. That's what Jessica tried to steal from me, the right to live my own life on my own terms. That evening, I sat in my kitchen, really my kitchen now, not a space I share with thieves and manipulators. The house felt different, clean in a way that had nothing to do with housekeeping. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Brennan? This is David Foster from the Attorney General's office. We received reports about 3 other elderly victims of Jessica Brennan in different states. Would you be willing to testify in those cases?" I thought about the other families Jessica had destroyed, the other elderly victims who trusted their children's spouses and lost everything. "Yes," I said, "I'll testify." Jessica had made one crucial mistake in her years of victimizing seniors. She'd targeted someone who fought back, someone who documented everything, someone who refused to disappear quietly. Now she'd pay for all of it, not just what she'd done to me, but what she'd done to every elderly person who'd trusted her. I opened my notebook to write the final entry in this chapter. Justice served. Jessica Brennan sentenced to 15 years. Restitution ordered. Life officially mine again. Then I closed the notebook and put it away. I had better things to do than document the past. I had a future to live. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your opinions of this story in the comments. To listen to more stories, click on one of the boxes showing on your screen. Thank you for watching.